Yesterday, I got the opportunity at the Malloy Jordan East Winston Heritage Center to see them wrap up a 70-year celebration by bringing in author Derwin Freeman to discuss his book, Building a Better Block with Brandon. This is The Black Collective. Let's listen in.
My name is Devin Freeman. It's good to be with you all this morning, and it is good to just see such a great performance this morning too. Honestly, that live in my heart, and it's cool seeing you all perform. My name is Devin Freeman, and I attend the illustrious North Carolina Central University, where I major in political science, and I'm a senior. I've had fortunate opportunities to be a part of a lot of civic and political campaigns, and my background is in community organizing. So what I do and my purpose is how do I make people civically aware so that they're civically engaged? And that's what I've been able to do during my time at Central, being class president twice, as well as working for the Biden-Harris campaign. And being able to do that throughout these 4 years has been so riveting because I've got to see what does it mean to do grassroots movements, especially work with the NAACP. And through my time, I've started to realize that education is the keys to success. So how is it that we educate people to be informed, to be inspired, so that they can do the things that they can go out and achieve? So, and it starts by teaching people from an early age. Because while working with middle schoolers and high schoolers, I started to begin like, what does community truly mean to you all? And they couldn't tell me. They couldn't tell me about what it is that they want to plan to do for their community. And when we talk about these dark times that we're in the world, and you see so many things negative on the news and negative in our communities, but we don't talk about the positive and highlight the positive that can happen, because the work that we do today can make the difference that we want for tomorrow. And so that's where this inspiration came about last spring, where I devised a plan of what does it look like to educate young people so that they can believe themselves as the change maker. And so that's why I created the book, Building a Better Block with Brandon. And unfortunately, I don't have my illustrator here, Trey. He graduated from Hampton University, and he got his master's degree in architectural engineering. He also works here in Winston-Salem, and he works in architecture. And it was interesting. I got him to illustrate my book because he's a creative director. And we came together with the idea of what does it mean to build a better block? And that's where that came from, because we understand that we're all interconnected. And because we're interconnected, what you do also affects me, and what I do affects you. So Ubuntu, the African proverb of we all positively impact each other. And what you do matters as what I do matters. And so what we saw was, and what I saw is a depiction of what I want for this book is how do I inspire others so that they can be the change they want to see in the world. And it starts by, you see Brandon, he works not only along different demographics, younger people, older people, people that don't necessarily look like him, building communities together, coalitions together, because what you saw during the civil rights movement, you saw Black and as well as Hispanics, other Latinos and other people come together. It wasn't just Black people. And then two, what you see during the book is you also see that he works with elected officials. So within the book, you actually have a woman, she's the mayor of the city. And so also inspires Black women to also run for office. They can be CEOs, they can be in higher leadership positions, because we have to uplift not just Black men, but also Black women as well. And then third, what you see about the ownership that the Black male can take within the community. So uplifting Black men that they themselves can be more than just football or basketball players, that they themselves can be owners. And so that's what you see within the book. You see, what does it mean if we can take young people and teach them and grab them by their hands that you can do the small things outside of voting to really be civically engaged in your community, whether that's doing cleanups, whether that's organized, helping out in your playgrounds, whether that's just working with the elderly community or beyond. So it's about how do we plant the seed of a mustard seed, and having that faith within them that they themselves can grow and be the trees and that this world really needs. So it's about standing tall, standing high, and more than anything, just inspiring. And that's what the story of Brandon is. You see just what he does with his community, bringing it together, and then really making a better block and a better world. And it starts by we can all do our part. We can make a difference in this world. So that's what the book is about. But yeah, I'm open to any questions, and then I can showcase different parts of the book as well. But I'm thankful for you all having me out here to be able to tell the story of Brandon, because I want to see it reach in every library's collection, and more than anything, to be an inspiration for others. But I'm open for questions though. So Brandon is in elementary school actually. So he's around the age of 7.
When I first read the book, I was so excited, and I have been on a mission to make sure that you are heard and seen. The director of the Happy Hill after school program came for the first session, and I'm sorry that you all did not get to meet. But we do look forward to seeing you on December the 4th at the Sim Center in Happy Hill.
Of course.
And of course, we have the program director of the Delta Fine Arts.
Yeah. Appreciate you. But no, it's been a great journey so far. It's been great being able to make different partnerships. We published the book this past summer, so we did that while I was in Africa, and learned a lot of things too that you see that I didn't realize that really touches on this book as well. And what I'll say too is even to this day, and seeing just like the story of Brandon being able to impact others, and then also we were able to develop lessons plans for the book now, so we've been testing that at different elementary schools as well. That's been going pretty well too, right? And then it's been interesting not only just reading, so seeing just like them think more critically about ways that they can help out in the immediate, but then also too like seeing them that they also want to run for office one day and wanting to like do different things of that nature. Because I think oftentimes we don't see a lot of us in politics, and I think it's now more time than anything, especially after this election that just occurred, that we see that. So this is it's been great. It's been a great journey, and I never knew that education is now what we need more than anything nowadays. And it starts by what we do now in the present. So thank you all for the continued work that you all do, not only supporting young authors like myself, but also just within the community in general. And thank you all for listening to me today.
How can we get your lesson plan?
I can email it to you. I can email you the lessons plan, and or I can do it myself. Either way, but
Awesome. Why did you go to Africa? And did anything? Did that trip inspire you to write the book?
So I wrote the book before I went to Africa. So I wrote the manuscript the week after New Year's, and then it was interesting because Trey didn't finish the illustrations till like end of May, and then we didn't get it published until like that June. And then I was already in Africa during that time. I was in Tanzania and Kenya, so I was there for 2 months learning Swahili, and then it was interesting because I was able to go on safaris. I went down and I've seen went on day night safaris, went to resorts, also got to live with the villagers, got to live and then the different ethnic groups there as well. And then and also work with the NGOs, so non-government organizations, and Kibera, and we were able to work with talk to the people living there, and then understand like what their situation is living within the slums, and like what is it that they need. And then you see, and then traveling to different like elementary schools, and it literally is that like the imagine just going to elementary school, and then they don't even have like doors, don't even have like the floor is just pulled up, and then don't even have like even a library in there or even like educational tools, or they're still using like blackboards that already been written on. So, and it was interesting because, and what they talked about the most was what they cared about was they just wanted an education, affordable education, and realized like being in Africa, I didn't know that 60% of the population don't have a job, and then when they do have a job, it's like they're employed by the government, and the government isn't paying them as much. So you see the political corruption, and then you also see just like the dire straits that people are in need of because they just want to get out of their situation, but they're waiting on an opportunity, they're waiting on a chance. And even talking to people who graduate college and they're still like without a job for 5 years, not because they're not able to work hard, is because there's not opportunities there. So it's about how is it that we make opportunities for themselves, and then even while I was there and seeing like what Brandon does, making opportunities for other people to get involved in a collective effort to make a difference. So and it's that I hope that hopefully that answers the question.
And one of our star
I saw.
actors.
I have a question. How do you feel about like people trying to like get to know like their roots in Africa?
That's a great question. So I do believe in Sankofa, so going back and remembering, and the reason being because I feel like wow, another story too. I was in Africa, and one of the things I was the in my cohort, I was the only African American male to go back. Everyone in my cohort was 30 people of us, and then we had two black girls, and then everybody else was white. And while being there, I went and one of the cities that we went to was Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and we went to a university and I was with other college African students. And, they were telling me they were the first African American male that they actually met in their life, and these are 18-year-olds and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's real. You look at the statistics; it's only about 0.4% of African Americans actually ever study abroad. So, and the ones that do are typically African American women that do, not African American males. And so, it was interesting because the reason why I chose to go to Africa, it was my first time traveling abroad, never been out the country. Been up and down the East Coast and been on to the West Coast, but I've never been out the country. And, talking to the girls, talking to the African students there, it just reminded me of just like, I wanted to be there because, and I had that, that question myself is like, I haven't traced back my ancestry yet to know where from Africa I'm from. Like, I know my dad's side of the family, I know my mom's side of the family, and my dad's side of the family, we're part of the Underground Railroad and stuff like that. And I know my mom's side of the family, they were enslaved. My dad's side of the family weren't. And so, but I don't know from both sides of the family where exactly from Africa. But because I always knew my history, that's empowered me to do the things that, a lot of people can't really necessarily do. And while being in Africa, it was just interesting. Like one of the first things, that wasn't a question to them, rather than they accepted me for who I was because they recognized that they're still, even though we're here and they're there, that there's Pan-Africanism is together. How do we all come together as a community, as a collective? And I started to realize that you begin to want an international perspective and not just a national perspective. That yes, even though we are here, we're African American. At the end of the day, we're still Africans, and so that by itself taught me that this is what we all need. And I think if we all had that connection and build upon that connection, you may not be able to trace back your roots, but still be able to go and make the community, because community exists wherever you want it to exist. The grass is green wherever you want to make it green. And that's what it meant so much to me. It's like, no, I don't know exactly where from Africa I'm from, but I can tell you about stories and people I've built a community with while I was in Kenya and in Tanzania, and I still stay in contact with them to this day, because that by itself is community. It's about how do you build, and you build by starting and doing the work.
That answered two of my questions. I know that music connects people,
Right.
especially students and kids. So, were they into hip hop and American culture as far as music? And did you get a chance to experience some of their music as well? Their present music. I'm not talking about the older traditional music, but what they're doing today as far as jazz, hip hop, and so-called pop music.
Yeah, we did. So they do. I didn't realize this either, but a lot of countries do view the U.S. as the free world, right? The biggest. And it was interesting was I didn't know that a lot of them take into, like, they consume a lot of our music, consume a lot of our TV shows, like they do. They understand. They know all the latest hip hop artists out. They know the music, all those things. And it was interesting because I did get a taste of their music as well. So they listened to Afro beats, and that was pretty good just to listen to that. It was my first time listening to Afro beats. I've listened to Afro beats while I was in the U.S. before I went there, but it was neat just seeing how they made up their own Afro beats. And it also is neat because when we were talking about rap, they also use rap in a way to. I know we in rap music nowadays we kind of highlight the bad parts within our culture, the drugs, the money, and violence, rather than there they kind of highlight the issues within their community and try to advocate and put awareness to it. So I saw that aspect of hip hop and rap there too, and not just like, so I saw that aspect of their way of utilizing hip hop and rap, but then also saw Afro beats, what they currently could join and make through beats and symbols, and then also just like they do utilize our modern hip hop and rap and jazz as well, like the clubs and everything that nature, because they probably very late. I mean, they probably till 5 o'clock in the morning. So whereas here the clubs be over at 3. So
Gun violence. Do you see the prevalence of gun violence in their communities the way it is here? Or is that kind of hasn't particularly
so while I was there, I didn't see too frequently the gun violence issue aspect of it. When I was seeing there, the issues that we saw the most was people not having a lack of affordable or quality of education, lack for clean water, and then also getting electricity. And then also the fourth thing I didn't know was healthcare. And then because you had a lot of women there that have maternal health issues, and then because of the lack of education of regards of family planning. So what is it? In Africa, it used to be more of a thing of where you hear the term like people had so many wives and then you had so many kids from that, and it wasn't necessarily it was a power thing to one aspect, but the other aspect of it was because in the villages during back in the day, you didn't have so many like men, and that's because the men were always sent out to go fight, right, fight, defend the village and things of that nature. So you left behind a lot of the women, and what it was that the collective thinking was that if you had a strong man nearby and he could take care of the women as well, he would, and that he would increase the family and make sure that was prosperous. And then it was less about, what could I do for you, what could you do for me, and versus it was more so about courtships and things of that nature. But what you're starting to see is that the undoing of that and more of like going into non-traditional things, and you're starting to see that a lot of people aren't educated on, if you're not in a good position, how can you go out and also how can you go out and start having like a family without planning for it? And so because of that lack of education, you're starting to see like a lot of the young men not doing as well as the young women, because young women are being empowered there more than young men are. It's similar to here, of them going out, becoming nurses, becoming doctors, becoming like lawyers and things of that nature. But you're still having young men not being able to get jobs. And as we talked about the economy, so maternal health is a real issue as well. And then the fifth, and I thought was really interesting, was like sustainability and the infrastructure. So how do we create the infrastructure that they need so that they're not too reliant and dependent on neo-colonialists? So for instance, you had colonization that happened, right? But now you're starting to see a lot of these uh, countries, African countries and other countries outside the U.S., that they're still dependent on those colonial powers because of what the systems are in place now today that keeps them there. So they don't keep them to be able to be like independent rather than always dependent. So that's why you hear all these talks about like China, about Russia, and then because you're starting to see that China's creating the Gold Belt Road Initiative, which essentially is like a road. Imagine a road that goes from the North Pole of Africa to the South Pole of Africa, and essentially they're creating their own infrastructure there, and then having the other African communities, their businesses and everything relying upon that. So that's what that looks like. And then now you're starting to see like globalization, superpowers like influencing other state actors. So that's why it matters about who's within the U.S., who's in office, what they're doing, and the different diplomats that you're sending to the different African countries.
Can you tell us if it even exists about a continuation or a series of Brandon?
Oh yeah, there definitely is going to be a continuation. Not sure we're going to do a continuation of Brandon itself, or we're going to do a spin-off of Brandon of some of the different main characters within the book, such as the mayor and things of that nature. Because we built this book so that it can go in different directions, and we could do it from like we've had various talks about, do we want to continue highlighting certain things that we want to see within the community needs, or do we want to do it versus you're starting to take different main characters in the book and seeing like how they're progressing in their own career, or simultaneously doing both. And then we just release like a new book each year that showcases like the progression of Brandon, like where he's going from like elementary school, middle school, and high school, and even college. Yeah, so I am. I have 10 with me today.